Alright, welcome to podfic. This is definitely my first one on the account, so let's just, give me some slack. Okay, this is called Winning with Losses by Saltwater Sweets on AO3, read by bunny_hop. Summary. Shota cannot sleep. This is normal, he rationalizes, and he knows it. It is rare for him to be able to sleep in the later hours of the morning once his shift is done. He has only around 4 hours to get as much sleep as he can, and it's not rare for him to find himself unable to rest and resort to snoozing in his sleeping bag while teaching. This is normal, he rationalizes. But these past few days have been anything but normal. Aizawa wakes up to find Midoriya sitting in the common room, which wouldn't be too much of a problem if it wasn't currently 4 a.m. Shota cannot sleep. This is normal, he rationalizes, and he knows it. It is rare for him to be able to sleep in the later hours in the morning, once his shift is done. He only has around 4 hours to get as much sleep as he can, and it's not rare for him to find himself unable to rest and resort to snoozing in his sleeping bag while teaching. This is normal, he rationalizes. But these past 3 days have been anything but normal. There is a small child passed out in Shuzenji's office. That same child nearly rewound one of his students to the point of non-existence. Several students, including 2 of his, have been gravely injured. One promising young hero's quirk has been completely erased. A pro hero is dead. Shota cannot sleep. Despite everything, this is normal. What's also normal is him getting up, regretting it instantly as all chances for rest are wiped away, and deciding that if he cannot sleep, he might as well make some coffee and prepare for the day. So that's exactly what he does. What's certainly not normal is sitting down to the 1A dorm's kitchen and seeing a head of messy, curly green hair there as well. "What are you doing up?" he asks Midoriya. Only it comes out a lot gruffer and snappier than he really intended. His problem child flinches as if he hadn't seen Shota. That's odd. Midoriya, for all his self-sacrificing faults and often reckless behavior, was one of the most observant students in his class, and Shota was standing right in front of him. Sorry, Sensei," Midoriya says, but he breathes the words out like a gasp. Shoot. How could he have forgotten? Midoriya wasn't turning under Sir Night Eye's agency. Of course he found it difficult to sleep after watching someone die. It always was. It's fine. Shota walks over to the kitchen, noticing that problem child used the kettle to make himself a cup of tea. Instead of wasting energy and getting out a whole new pot, he decided to instead simply pour himself a mug. Just make sure that you don't overdo yourself in training today. You've had a long week. Don't overexert yourself so much. Midoriya nods, but it seemed as though he barely heard him, grabbing his still warm cup of tea. Shota walks over to the couch his student is on. He sits down a comfortable distance from him, and the teen doesn't make any moves to move closer or farther from him. There is quiet for a time. "Aizawa-sensei?" His problem child's voice is soft. So soft, Shota wondered if he spoke at all. At the lack of response, Midoriya continues. If Shota cared about whatever that question would be, he would have said something. Did you ever lose anyone?" Shota freezes. In an instant, apologies fly out of Midoriya's mouth before the hero can react farther. "I'm sorry, that was a sensitive question. I shouldn't have. I was wondering, but you really don't have to answer. If you want to then, that'd be fine, but..." "Problem child," Shota reminds him, forcing his body to relax. "Breathe." Right, sorry," Midoriya says, a nervous, defensive, self-deprecating smile on his face. "Sorry." It's fine. It really isn't, but Shota can't bring himself to reprimand someone who's experienced more horror in the last 2 days than most pros experience in 2 decades. He's rational, not cruel. They sit in silence that is far more uncomfortable than before. "I did." Shota's voice cuts through the air like a knife, and the kid's body tenses as the head whips around to face him, the look in those green eyes startled. "Oh," Midoriya says, sounding more surprised at the fact the hero answered him, and not the actual answer itself. "When did—" "I was a little older than you are." Shoto takes a sip of his tea, savoring the warmth and honey-like flavor. He was a friend of my class. Problem child begins, and Shoto knows instantly what he's about to say. I'm sorry. A choked-off grasp, a thud, a crack, a deafening silence. A voice, words that were never spoken all. Don't be. The underground hero leans back on the couch. Already wishing he was back in the cold embrace of sleep. It was a while ago. There's nothing either of us can do. And God, hadn't that been a horrible realization when he was younger? The mortifying knowledge that someone who had always believed in him, had always cared about him, was always going to be a much better hero than he ever could, was gone. Yamada and Kayama were still there, of course, but they weren't the same. No one was ever the same. How did you, Midoriya's voice is even quieter than before. Shoto hadn't thought that was possible, especially for someone who couldn't stop talking when he began to ramble out questions about someone's quirk and how it worked. How did you get over it? That was the question, wasn't it? Plenty of pros, especially ones who had teams with friends or siblings, lost someone important to them. No one ever knew how to get over it. To tell Midoriya anything but the truth would just be cruel. So he doesn't. You don't, he says. The words soft but blunt. Honest but not unkind. You have to accept it and try to move on. Oh, the kid says, and Shoto hears more than a little disappointment in his voice, but decides to show him some mercy. It can help, he begins, to talk about it with someone. Despite the blanket draped across his shoulders, Midoriya freezes. Oh, he repeats, voice hardly a whisper, and it's remarkable how the same word can have so many different emotions behind it. Goodness, he cares about these kids too much. They were absolutely going to be the death of him someday, and yet somehow he doesn't mind. It had been a while since he wanted someone to protect, like he wanted to protect the students of Class 1A, and that one in General Studies. It feels nice to keep them safe, to want to keep them safe. Even though he's pretty sure his gray hairs have multiplied over the past months since the USJ incident, Midoriya looks at him, or rather, the space right next to him, in a way that could almost be described as longingly. Shoto lets his arm drop in what he hopes is a slightly inviting gesture. He decides that it must have been given. How Midoriya slowly, fearfully, but surely finds his way by his side and shakily rests his head on Shoto's shoulder. The boy is trembling. God, was he always this small? And Shoto puts his arm on his shoulder. Are you sure? Problem Child asks. Midoriya, why would I ever say something I didn't mean? You've done it before. I was sure I was going to be expelled on the first day of school, his student mumbles up, almost defensively, and, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point, Shoto says, voice half a grumble, and Midoriya laughs a bit. They stay like this. Shoto's never had anyone do this before, not ever in the dorms. Most of the students would rather go to their friends for comfort than their teacher. But Midoriya wouldn't do that, because Shoto had seen the kids' middle school records. He'd seen quirkless written on it like a brand. Even if he would have been comfortable going to friends at an ungodly hour such as this, Shoto doubted that anyone would truly know what it's like to lose someone you look up to. Only Ida could have a semblance of it, and even then, Ingenium was still alive. Thank you, Midoriya whispers after what it feels like hours. Perhaps it was. Shoto's arm wraps around him a little tighter. A little softer, a little gentler. Of course, he says, and he means it. Midoriya cannot sleep, and this is normal. It will have to be, for the next while until he can move on. But sooner or later, he will be okay. He and that child in Shuzenchi's office will be okay, and Kirishima in the hospital will be okay, and that boy the redhead was interning with will be okay, and the boy who lost both of his quirks and his mentor in one day will be okay. For now, they are not okay. This is normal, but they will be. They will be. Okay, that was the end. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good rest of your day or night.